And we're live!
Right, just in
Yeah.
time.
Welcome to the dark show, where both of our lights are super dim.
I'm trying to have my monitor on there. That's a little bit brighter. You can actually see me now.
We have a ton of topics this week, somehow.
Yep.
We are
Some of them
arranging...
are even good.
Yeah, especially number 9, way down there at the
Yep.
bottom.
Yeah.
That's the one that's going to put us over like 4 hours.
It could.
Right? So, this one's probably rapid fire topic here. Intel's newest CPU lineup is coming soon. It looks like it might be aggressive, but hopefully they're actually making some. Looking at you, AMD, and Nvidia,
Apple? Oh,
right?
the sold out graphics cards.
Yeah. There's something here about iPhone 12 magnets can interfere with pacemakers.
Yeah.
So let's hope you
Kind
don't
of
have a
unfortunate.
pacemaker in your butt.
Or an iPhone on your chest.
I guess that could work too, right?
Or won't work.
That's terrifying. Wrist ID. Apple thinks that that's a good idea. I have a weird story on that one.
Okay.
Somehow, right? Wi-Fi 6E is apparently coming out. And apparently Apple's naming it because 6E is way easier to remember than 7. I'm so glad we switched to the number system instead of the bigger number system to only introduce letters into it. I think they took this one from math.
Algebra.
Right. That's the fancy word for it. That's what the cool kids call it. We have voice control for your Wi-Fi router or something like that. This is all going to okay, number 5 kind of ties in with number 9 at this point. This is a really weird order now. Big companies plan to use AI to decide if it makes sense to let you keep your refunded item.
Yeah.
Okay, I could see how that makes sense from a guy that returns things.
Yeah. A lot of
Right, more than one. Google Chrome doesn't default to HTTPS. I don't know, I saw this article on my phone while doing the thing, and I was like, huh, why? And then the Everything Toolbar in Windows 10, I saw the URL and I was like, I kind of want to read through this. But we'll read it on camera if we even get that far. And then I started on Pies, I think when we started live streaming. I have to look back on when I have to look back at my Amazon order to see when I actually bought the Pi. But I'm pretty sure it was like right when we started live streaming. But I'll probably check that while we're streaming today.
Yeah.
So starting up at our first topic is probably one of the more interesting ones. I'm also going to double check that we have audio going into the YouTube.
That's a good point because we were working on fixing our audio right before.
So
is it pretty good?
You're going to have to because I have voice meter open. So if you could check it real fast, that would be great.
We do have audio.
Sweet. Is it good? Nobody knows.
Yeah. My voice sounds a lot better than it has in previous weeks.
That's good. You sound beautiful.
Of course.
Speaking
so
of...
we've got these beautiful CPUs coming out.
Yeah, right.
Soon, hopefully.
This is over on techspot.com. Intel says their new CPUs are coming out early 2021, pretty much as everyone expected them. Intel seems to always release their processors early every year, just after the holiday season. But it kind of makes sense, I guess. So they're always advertising, all these huge numbers. I really, really hope that they actually manufacture enough. But I don't think they will. I think this is going to be yet another great shortage.
Just like the GPU shortage we're kind of going through right now.
Right. Funny enough, it's not just GPUs coming from having to buy computer parts all the time. It's a little bit of RAM. It's hard to get specific RAM. It's easy just to I need 8 gigs of DDR4 3000 series or something. That you can find. But if you want G-Skill Aris series 3600 megahertz or whatever, it gets harder to find.
Okay.
And so RAM's a little bit harder. Power supplies are the super hard ones right now. To find a good deal on a power supply is ridiculous.
That's pretty surprising to me. That
Right.
power supply is one of the things you'd have a problem supplying. With the GPUs and RAM, I've heard about shortages in the past being due to like the shortage of transistors or whatever components they use, and
Yeah.
the RAM and the GPUs, I guess, because of the VRAM and their storage use a lot of the transistors. So
Correct. Yeah.
I can understand it from that aspect, but power supplies, that's interesting.
Yep. I've also had a little bit of a hard time with motherboards, but it's mostly
Okay.
me wanting specific models, and
Gotcha.
that kind of makes sense because everyone wants a specific model motherboard. Yeah, but trying to do custom builds this year, it's impossible to get a hold of a CPU, GPU, and then a power supply to power them both.
Gotcha.
And then trying to like match the RAM heat sinks to color with the motherboard and the case, nightmare. So people just kind of got what was available.
Yeah.
One of the weird stories, story time with Jacob. I was doing a custom build for a customer for before Christmas, and like we started early December, like 3rd, 4th of December, and I ended up getting the last piece, which ended up being the graphics card 2 days before Christmas. And I actually left him away to pick it up with me not there because he had to get it Christmas Eve.
Wow.
And like I told him, I was like, yeah, it usually takes like a week for me to get all the parts, build it, install it, set everything up, and have it all good to go. I like to have like a full week of time. Most of that shipping. Shipping took like 3 weeks. So Intel can't do this. We need Intel to be 2-day delivery. It'll be interesting to see if when Intel gets out their graphics cards, if it's going to be the same, or if Intel have a better way to keep up with their graphics card sales.
Yeah. For sure. It looks like all these new Intel CPUs coming out are just a little bit faster than their Ryzen counterparts. From one of the graphics on this page. Assuming that people can actually get their hands on them.
Right. Yeah, because I'm still running i5 2500K, which is a 2011 processor, right? Yeah. It's a 10-year-old processor now. And I would like to stay Intel. I have an AMD downstairs. It works great. 3600X works wonderful. But Intel lasted me 11 years so far. So if it could last me another 11, I really don't mind spending the extra, $50-$100 for the premium Intel name. Especially if it lasts. But I guess we'll see early 2021.
If you can actually get one.
Yeah, if you can actually get one. Speaking of actually getting one, getting a researcher.
Yes. So this article is from over at Gizmodo, and some researchers found that the magnets in an iPhone 12 can deactivate a pacemaker. So it has something to do with the charging technology in the iPhone 12. And those magnets somehow interact with the pacemaker in your chest, which keeps your heart beating at a, steady rate or
Right.
the rate that it's supposed to, which is pretty important if you have heart problems. So if you have an iPhone 12 and you have a pacemaker, maybe read this article and
get rid of your pacemaker.
Yeah. Either I haven't
That's an Apple guy for you.
read all the research and stuff, but it's worth double checking for sure.
I'm gonna do a fancy Google search. How strong is an iPhone 12 magnet? It says they are recycled. It could pull up to 15 watts of power. But how strong? Like, I can't imagine it's like a 20-pound magnet. Right?
I have no idea. I don't even know what unit of measure magnets are measured in, you know? I mean, I
So,
guess the lifting strength is one way to measure it,
yeah,
but
most of the time it's measured on pull, I think. Magnet pull
okay.
strength.
Mhm.
Because I had to look at this up when I was trying to make a magnetic ceiling mount for my projector. So I would have it so I could just have the projector and I could just like lift it up and it would like
Mhm.
magnetically clamp to the ceiling.
Yeah.
Uh, Turns out magnets need to be like really strong.
Mhm.
But a strong magnet is kind of big, so it can't be like that powerful. And then we had talked about it a couple months ago where people were putting like these wallet things on the back of their phone and they were sliding to their pocket and the wallet would just fall off.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time believing it's more than like a pound or 2 pound magnet. I'm curious
Yes.
on.
Although depending on how those cards go on the back of the phone, you know, if it's more of a sliding motion as opposed to actually like
Yes,
pulling it off, it could take a different amount of force.
that's very true.
Yeah, so there's still research going into this whole pacemaker thing, and apparently there have been issues with some like fitness trackers interfering with the pacemaker as well. So
Yeah.
if you have a pacemaker and one of these devices, it's highly recommended article to read or check out the research there. Talk to your doctor.
Yep. I don't know if there's that big of an age gap between us, but I still remember the dreaded fear of having a magnet anywhere near a computer or a TV. Like, you were not to bring a refrigerator magnet, those little tiny flimsy refrigerator magnets
Yeah.
near the TV,
Mm.
not even in the same room. And I was like, now you can't take your wrist. I guess it's not your wrist, your iPhone. I was thinking the magnet and the watch,
Yeah.
but there's not one. And it's like, now you can't bring your phone near the TV. Because
I
it's still ingrained in my mind to never take magnets near a computer.
Yeah. Do you know if that had to do with the CRT?
It's the CRT.
Okay. Cool. And so nowadays,
It
who
doesn't
uses
matter.
CRT, right?
Right?
Okay. But I mean, have you ever had any issues with hard drives getting close to a magnet?
Not
I mean, because
really.
that could theoretically be a thing, right?
Yeah, it is. And then like another thing that they tell you is not to like stack hard drives around top of each other for like long-term storage. It's like
Okay.
computer shops shouldn't just stack all their hard drives up for their inventory because we
Okay.
keep inventory of hard drives. Lord, those were the days. Uh, but like I still have my hard drives stacked up on top of each other, no problems. The
Yeah.
hard drives that are in my computer server downstairs are literally just sitting on top of each other,
Okay.
and they've been
My
running a year without a problem so far.
my computer actually has like a little rack that the hard drive slide into
Space them
because
out that much.
fancy like that. Yeah,
Right.
so I don't know how much spacing really matters, but
I think
and
it's
then
more of an air.
I've also heard, or at least I think I heard, that the barcode thing on credit cards and stuff
Mm.
could have issues with magnets, which makes sense because it is a
It's a
like
mag strip.
it's a mag card, yeah. Yeah. So, but I've personally never had any issues with that, but I
Yeah.
don't just have magnets floating around either, so
That's hysterical enough because for the computer repair, I have little
Mhm.
trays with giant magnets on the back. These
for like screws and stuff, right? When you
Yeah.
take apart a computer, you don't want to lose all the screws.
Yeah.
So.
And so like because I have so many of them, they just like magnet together, and so like I have this stack of them, and they sit right beside the TV, like right for the TV screen that I use as a monitor.
Mhm.
And every time I'm thinking like, should I and like pull, but I can't bring myself to pull the magnets right up to the screen. I know it
Just
won't
to
do
test
anything,
it.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I spent $300 on this screen. We're not testing something, even though I know it won't work.
Speaking of stuff that
Won't work.
won't work or doesn't work,
This is going to be a full stream of Nephew Tech has stories to tell.
article from the Next Web.
.com.
New patent hints at wrist ID for the Apple Watch.
So I saw this article and it kind of had me interested because just from like these patent pictures, I really don't get to see much about it. It looks like there's some type of camera or some type of sensor that shoots down into the wrist, the top of the wrist, not like the part where all the veins and stuff happens. I would assume that this would be like considered the meaty part of the wrist. Like,
okay, gotcha. And somehow it looks at those veins that are in the back of the arm and maybe the bones too as well. Yep. And interesting.
So one of the things I'm interested in is if this, a lot of the research before they start putting the patents in, was done pre-pandemic, or if this was an idea of once the pandemic started, due to like your wrist is probably one of the cleaner open sections of skin on your body, because like you cough into your arm, you use your hands, it's so I would assume that it's a little bit on the cleaner side,
because really, like, you don't go around holding stuff with that part of your arm, or even that part of the arm, more or less, like the backside.
Right. And then I remember the good old days when I used to go to doctors, right? And when you were allowed to go in buildings, and the doctor had a palm scanner. So like instead of doing a fingerprint reader like your phone has, it had a palm scanner. So you set your whole hand in, and it read the like whatever in your hand.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, we go from like fingerprint, then we went to face, and then we went to palm, and then we went to now wrist.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for when you just walk through like a metal detector style box, and you just walk in and get a full body scan, right? Like, at what point do they just like take like a skin sample or something?
Yeah. For a second there, when I read veins in this article, I wondered if it has some kind of thing that pricks you and tests your blood or something.
Every time.
There's no way they've gone there this far.
Yeah. So
but thankfully they haven't.
Yeah, I assume this is mostly for like Apple Pay, because you can tap your Apple Watch on certain registers to Apple Pay. But it'd be interesting for microtransactions. So every time you bought something, it would prick you.
And then you can work on your budget by having it prick you harder.
Right. I think they would start calling it like the Apple Hickey or something eventually. Like, oh, you got to avoid those guys. But I thought it was interesting that we're now reading another portion of the body for identification.
Yeah.
Because like, should you say this on the internet? Even my like mobile banking apps will just take a pen, and so it's like, which is easier, like
a 4-digit PIN.
Yeah, a 4-digit PIN or a another way to identify you through your skin.
But one thing about the PIN is you have to actually log in on that device with your username and password generally.
Yes.
And then it kind of saves your login, and then that PIN is really locking the app on your phone. But I couldn't go in and log into your account, obviously, with just the PIN. But
no, you couldn't. But if you got my phone, you could log in on my phone with just the PIN.
True.
Because you wouldn't have to type it in again.
Yeah. Which for banking and stuff is,
well, it's like a big deal, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not your Gmail account, right? The master account, but
the Gmail account
is still important.
It freaks out whenever you try to sign it on a new computer.
As it should, though, because if your Gmail account is compromised, people can go and reset your passwords on any site they want to.
Yeah.
Forget password, go into your email.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's funny to joke about that your Gmail account is literally the most important account you have, but honestly,
it kind of is.
Is that a good thing? No, not really, but it's a thing.
Yeah, your Gmail account and your phone number, I think, are the two most important things that most people own nowadays.
Yeah, like not even your social security number at this point.
Right. Yeah, so like if you switch phone providers because you move or something and they don't have service in your area and you switch phone numbers.
Yeah.
And then you're like, crap, I needed that number to reset all of my accounts. Oh, you might have had this
Speaking
happen to you.
Yeah, speaking of phone numbers, so talk about going into another story. We're definitely not going to finish all these articles, but that's fine. So last week we talked about switching from Republic Wireless to Google Fi due to me not having service in certain areas.
Okay,
And when I did that, I was able to transition my phone number
that's a
to
good
my
thing.
Google Fi, and it was a pretty simple process. So that was nice. And last week I also mentioned that Venmo had not worked for me
Yes.
because it didn't work with their public wireless because it was prepaid.
Did it work with a
But
Google Hangout number?
it does work with my Google, no, not Google Hangouts, but my actual original phone number
Uh-oh.
now that it's linked to my Google Fi account.
Ah, okay.
So I had tried to log in or create a Venmo account with
Yep.
my original phone number shortly after switching to Google Fi, and it didn't work. But I think it
Okay.
must have been like cached in their servers or something, like
Yeah,
somewhere it was
right.
cached that I had Republic Wireless and it hadn't yet been updated. But now that it's been a few months since I've
It
switched,
finally, yeah, it
it
rolled
finally,
over.
so I
Uh,
was able to create a Venmo
yep.
account.
One thing with your Venmo account, make sure you go in like the options settings and do
The
verify
public-
account.
Oh,
Otherwise, you can't use the money in your Venmo wallet to pay people in Venmo. Fun fact. It takes like 3 days. So if you need to like use it today, it's one of those things like you need to have done it 3 days ago.
okay,
Otherwise, they just have to pull it straight out of your bank account, which isn't
gotcha.
a bad thing, but
Mhm.
it stinks if you weren't planning on it.
Yeah,
Things that stink because no one planned on it. The Wi-Fi networking standards. Good lord, I thought we had fixed it.
they were already pretty bad.
They were terrible. Okay, they started out great. It was so easy to understand. And then it went like, okay, like I could see how numbers with 4 digits are confusing to some people. So we'll switch it to 1 digit. And now I have no idea what they're doing anymore. So this is over from TheVerge.com. Still not sponsoring us after almost 2 years of asking. We're going to start sending them a weekly email like, hey, we're live and we're going to talk about all of your articles. But, so this is with Netgear, TP-Link. They all have new routers coming out that are Wi-Fi 6E. Netgear is the
They
official.
cost more than my laptop
Right.
and my phone, not combined, but more expensive than either of them.
So if you thought you were fancy with the Wi-Fi 5 gigahertz band in your home, get ready for the Wi-Fi 6 gigahertz band in your home. So I guess now, if you really wanted to, you could have a 2.4 and a 5 and a 6.
And 6.
But then, like, my router does two 2.4s, I believe. No, it's one 2.4 and two 5s. It's one or the other. I don't know. I have one of them disabled, so I'm only shooting out two bands. But so like they call them tri-band routers, and you're able to do multiple of the same band. I guess
Okay.
it's to split up like devices, or I don't know. I just disabled it. I didn't want it.
Okay.
So now we have a 6 gigahertz band out, which is weird because Wi-Fi 6 didn't have 6 gigahertz, but Wi-Fi 6E does have 6 gigahertz. And it only gets more confusing because we started at the number 6 and we would have just assumed that the next number of this lineup was a 7. But it is not.
Yeah.
So for those,
That is
yeah,
kind of confusing, but I'll say it's not entirely their fault.
it's
I mean, it
not
makes sense.
Netgear's
It
fault.
makes sense to line up. Oh, definitely not Netgear's fault.
Yeah.
But I mean, it kind of makes sense to line up the 6 gigahertz bandwidth with Wi-Fi 6. But then again, if the other Wi-Fi standards are following like a, sequential number scheme, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then yeah, that throws that all off. I don't know. It's definitely confusing though.
I'm trying to see if I can just pull up the list because it,
I also go ahead.
because it gets really confusing for most people. Go ahead, and I'll try to find this list.
And then I know there's like all the A, C, C, N, all that stuff, all those letters for different Wi-Fi speeds. Or is that Ethernet? I don't even
No,
know.
that's Wi-Fi.
It's confusing. But I did notice from reading this article, Netgear claims that this device can push beyond gigabit speeds for mobile devices, and that it has a total throughput of 10.8 gigabits per second over wireless. That's insanely fast for. Well,
right. Imagine how
even
hot your
for
device will get.
wired network. Yeah.
All right. I guess this works. We're just going to do a Google image search.
Okay.
So, here's a rough image above our head. Okay, we open image in new tab. Look at that. We're professionals or something like that. So first started. So 802.11 is the Wi-Fi standard. It's designated by the IEEE International something something something. But they're the ones that make like all the networking internet standards essentially. So it started with A, B, G, and then most of the ones that people now nowadays are N and AC. So AX, I believe, is the Wi-Fi 6 standard, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
But it really switched over from having going from N to AC, and then they pretty much switched to Wi-Fi 6. And then you can see the frequencies of it. So they started off with 5 gigahertz, and they realized that the technology wasn't there yet. So it went back to 2.4 for a while, and then they started adding 5 gigahertz back in. But it's interesting because a lot of times when you would go router searching for like to buy a router, we're going to switch this off real fast to make sure that I'm not logged into Amazon before we go buying a router. Is that it was super easy to tell customers how to buy a router just by looking at it.
Okay.
Sweet. Guess who's not signed in? Let's see if it can find my... okay. Doesn't see my location either. So it would be like TP-Link AC. So it's easy to tell a customer to not buy an N router anymore because they're just so obsolete. Look for AC or AX. And then the number that comes right after it is how fast it can go at maximum performance. So 1750 is 1750 megabit between all the bands added together. And so it's easy enough to assume that an AC 1750 would be better than an AC 1200. It might not be better in every way. Like some might have a better range or a better feature, but that's an easy way to just like compare numbers, right?
Yeah.
And then they went Wi-Fi 6, and it starts to get really confusing. And I think now that it's 6E, it's going to make it exceptionally harder. And I don't know how to explain this to my customers.
And so, I guess
devices
will also have to support this, which probably for a lot of people will just be like a wireless card, like receiver card, or
because I think it was last week we were talking about that phone trends that should die, and one of them is putting 5 gigahertz or whatever 5G at the end of it.
Yeah.
It's like this Netgear here just says Wi-Fi 6 router, and then encased it says R6700AX. So it's an AX router at 6700 speed. I don't know why there's an R in there. But then
so it'll still support those older standards, but maybe just not for that 6 gigahertz.
But you could argue then that it's a Wi-Fi 6 router, thinking that it's a Wi-Fi router with 6 gigahertz, not realizing that once you buy it, plug it in, there's no 6 gigahertz band because 6E has it.
Oh.
And not the Wi-Fi 6.
Now I see why that's confusing. Okay, now I got you.
And so someone will be like, well, I thought, this...
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
My mouse just died.
That's quite inconvenient. That's what you get for using a wireless mouse.
Now it's a wired mouse, and it's back up and gone. Just got to deal with the wire now. Yeah, so that's my entirely way too long of a rant of I don't know why we couldn't have called it Wi-Fi 7.
Yeah. Speaking of wild rants.
This video was made with wild rants.
Oh, yeah, we almost forgot that. I totally forgot that.
Guess who has their lower thirds?
Jmart Media does.
.com and nepnewtech.com
.com as well.
Right? Don't go to my website right now.
Oh, really? Is it down?
The SSL certificate is done, so I have to renew it. But today is not a working day, so I will do it tomorrow.
Oh, well, as long as you're not logging into your site, it's fine. Assuming that it still supports HTTP, which
Right.
I hope it does.
Actually, like most iPhone users and Apple users, their devices freak out if SSL isn't enabled.
Okay, now most devices freak out if you go to https.nepnewtech.com or https forward slash or colon slash slash nepnewtech.com,
Yeah.
and you don't have the SSL certificate activated or up to date or whatever. But you should still be able to go to http colon slash slash
Yeah.
nepnewtech and
It's,
not get a warning.
okay. Yeah, so I had a warning before, so I just disabled it on my Brave browser so I could actually pull up the website. And so like now it just says not secure. But like I can re-enable warning.
Gotcha.
And so now if I refresh it, it popped up like this, like your connection is not private. So you do advanced, proceed anyways, even though it's unsafe. There's nothing here. Half these links are dead, but it's beautiful.
Oh, let me see.
So I just got to spend in.
So your website, even when you go to http colon slash slash nepnewtech, it forwards you over to https
Yeah.
colon.
I have that little scripty there to auto forward everyone over.
I don't think mine does. I don't even think I have an SSL certificate on mine, just because.
Like why, right?
You don't have to log in or anything, so.
Mine barely has links.
And an image.
Right. I think there's actually 2 images. We should probably leave 5 for the end.
Okay. Yes. Oh, so item number 6 is an article from Fox Business, of all people. Be careful, it might blast your eardrums when you click on it.
Oh, it won't for me, and we will talk about that later.
So this article is talking about how Amazon and Walmart specifically are using AI to decide if it makes financial sense to return or to accept your return of an item. So you go to Walmart, or actually you go to walmart.com and you buy a pair of gym shorts and you pay and you have them shipped to your house. And then you decide, hey, these gym shorts don't actually fit. So you start your return with Walmart or Amazon. So now these companies have to pay for that return shipping to get that item shipped back to them. So they're going to start using AI to decide if it actually makes sense for them to have you ship the item back to them and for them to pay that shipping fee, or if it makes sense for them to just let you keep the item and refund you your money.
So here's a wild idea.
Yeah.
What if they make, instead of paying to have you ship it back, they make you return it to one of their locations?
That would be an option.
So instead of paying for
Certainly
shipping,
for Walmart, and even for Amazon, maybe you return it to an Amazon locker. Or Kohl's, yeah.
Yeah.
But still, there's shipping fees associated with either Amazon employees or whoever it is.
There are, but like the employees are already there working for whatever. And instead of, once it gets returned to, like in this case, Walmart, because it's way easier than having to go through all the subsidiaries of Amazon.
Yeah.
You take it to the Walmart store and you go like, here's my return barcode. And you scan it on the phone and then you give them the item and then you're done and you leave. And then the Amazon store just takes it and just resells it at just like for profit. Mm-hmm. And Walmart Corporation just says, thank you. Like, thank you for dealing with that. Mm-hmm. Or because they could sell it in their back to their employees like they were caught doing with food, I think it was Walmart. Or they can donate to a charity or whatever. So that Walmart knows that you're not buying things trying to scam them out of return.
Yeah. And this article also mentions that this would specifically be for like really inexpensive items.
Right.
Or large items that would be more expensive to ship. Which I would assume that larger items also probably cost more money too. Yeah. Yeah. Something large or something heavy like that.
Yeah, something that could be physically large and expensive to ship, but it's not
Yeah.
a valuable
Hmm.
item.
Yeah. It's not like a washing machine that you bought for
Right.
$2,000 and
It's
they're
like,
just gonna let you
yeah,
keep it.
it's like that costs $150 for them to ship it, but
Yeah.
it's a 2 grand. Yeah, I get what you mean
Yeah.
on that.
But the danger is, like you said, would be people purchasing items and then refunding them in order to scam Amazon or scam Walmart. So
Yeah,
the danger of this is that people will try and take advantage of that. And I mean, people will
right.
because
Like I don't know if we should be talking about how you can scam businesses, but one of the ones I had heard before was employees of big tech box shops like
they're going to
uh
say this is something you should watch out for.
right, yeah, Best Buy. Their an employee would have a friend go in and buy something, and then return it as open box, and then
Mhm.
the employee could just go and just buy it off the before someone else buys it off of the
So
open box table.
it's no longer brand new. Now it's actually gone home with somebody, even though they returned it, and it
Yeah.
is still, new in box. But
And then
it's
yeah, that employee knows that they're buying a good item because
Mhm.
they just had their friend walk out the store, go in their car, open it up, put it right back in the
Yeah.
box, and now it's an
Mhm.
open box item. And then in a week when they have to put it on the open box shelf or whatever, or the table they have,
Yeah.
they would just walk up and just like buy it
Mhm.
back. And so yeah, trying to uh, prevent scams like this,
Mhm.
it's gonna be
Trying
hard.
to
It's
Yeah, trying to prevent the wrong people from scamming, but still, you know, do what's right for the people who are actually wanting the refund.
right.
Like, I don't know if it's a fine line there. Depends on what that really means, what a fine line is, but probably a pretty broad line. But
Yeah, super
but it's a
broad.
hard line to find. So,
Right. Speaking of something that's hard to find,
and speaking of what we were just speaking about with our HTTPS and HTTP stuff.
right? We should have jumped to this topic first. Like,
Yeah.
if only we could read. Uh, this is on 9to5google.com. Google Chrome address bar may soon default to HTTPS. I thought they
Mhm.
did already. I guess it's all because every site
It
is written to do it automatically.
Yeah, it depends on the site. Like, as you're building an HTML page, you can say, if someone loads my HTTP page, forward them directly to HTTPS, which, like we discussed, your site already has it set up like that. And I think most sites probably do that, but I guess it wasn't officially defaulted to HTTPS in an actual, well, the Chrome browser yet. So,
Right. Yeah, 'cause, I use a name server, uh,
mhm.
and it's just a checkbox. And so I hit the checkbox, and it will auto send
Okay.
people over. But yeah,
Mhm.
when I had first started the company, I had to have like this little piece of code. I was seeing if I could find it. I don't have it in the website anymore because it's been
Okay.
like 5 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was this weird like little thing where it was like it has to check the URL, and if the URL was HTTP, it would auto forward to the website again, but with
Okay.
HTTPS in it.
Hmm.
And it was just like this little weird script of code.
Okay.
And now it's just a checkbox, so that's great. Uh,
Gotcha.
I don't see why they wouldn't at this point. I think you are the only one that doesn't have HTTPS on their website.
Oh, I bet you there's a ton of sites without HTTPS. And for most sites, or for a lot of sites, it really doesn't matter. I mean,
Right.
because the only reason that HTTPS matters at all is if you're actually sending data
Back
to
and
the
forth,
site.
yeah.
Yeah. So, like if you're logging in, you want to make sure that you're on an HTTPS enabled site that is actually secure, not unsecure, because unsecure just means that it has an older source of truth.
Right. Yep.
Um,
And you can
because that encrypts the message going from your computer to the server that the web page is hosted on, and so people can't just sniff the packets going across your network and read your password and username. Like, literally, just pull out your password and username from.
right, yeah. And most web browsers at this point, I think, are universal. They all have the little lock to the left of the address bar to show
Yeah.
you that it's secure. It's pretty easy to see.
Usually green and lock is good. Red and lock with a line through it, bad.
Right. It's not too hard.
But again, if you see that, it doesn't, like if you go to nepnewtech.com and you see that, it doesn't mean that's a bad thing. It just means don't submit any, you know, what's the word? Confidential information, or, you know.
Yeah. Don't be sending emails on my website.
Yeah. So, which is not something you can do anyway. So
yeah,
we're totally cool there.
Yeah. It also doesn't mean that like there's not any scams or it's a safe website. So like it can still have a lock and you can still click a link and it can still give you a virus.
Yes.
That's not what the lock does. The lock just says that the communication between you and the web page is secure.
Yeah.
We're air quoting on that one because it's going to be false at one day.
Yeah. I guess another reason that you might want to make sure you're on a secure site would be if you are downloading something, because
you could
that
have
means
middleman attack.
Yeah, you could have a middleman where, you know, I go to, I guess actually I could go to jmartmedia.com / multi-stream.
Hey, there you go.
And
Yeah.
I can download that multi-streaming program, and I could think that I'm downloading it from Jmart Media, and I am, but because it's not a secure site, if someone were to kind of get in the middle of that transmission from my web server to your computer as you're downloading, they could theoretically replace that file and you could get a bad file. So I guess there actually is a reason for me to get HTTPS. I wasn't thinking about that at all. But for $100 a year,
Right.
Ish. I don't know what the price is running right now.
Yeah, like a tenth of that.
Really? Okay,
yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. Like it's not a lot, but it's just enough to be annoying.
Yeah.
Speaking of just enough to be annoying, I didn't even read this article. I don't know if it's worth reading through it. We're at 42 minutes now, and we haven't even got to my updates.
Let's speed run it.
Speed run it.
Use the Everything toolbar to find files faster in Windows 10. This article coming at you from Lifehacker.
So I didn't read it all. I just thought the title. What?
Okay.
Oh.
So it's talking about kind of the Windows 10 search feature, and the author is saying that they haven't found it very useful, but I personally find the Windows search bar really useful. Whenever I'm opening up an app, I usually search for it in the search bar. If I'm looking up command prompt, I type CMD and hit enter. If I'm looking up for Discord, I hit DIS, hit enter, and it works pretty well for me. But what is this everything search bar?
You just do CMD enter. You don't do it for administrator?
Nah. Don't know none of that admin stuff.
So I always do CMD and then I hit run as administrator. Because
Okay.
I don't know if any commands I can do without administrative privileges. So I always have to click administrator.
Okay.
Anyway, that just caught me off guard that you said CMD
yeah.
enter. It's like, no. But
so this is the everything toolbar.
So yeah, I was curious on what exactly is different with it. Because like, if you want to keep reading, I'll explain. So in the bottom left corner, you have the like the little search functions. You have like the windows, and you have Cortana and multitask view, and then you have the search bar. I actually have the search bar disabled because if you just click on the Windows button in the bottom left or hit your Windows key, you can just start typing, and you don't even have to hit this bar. And so that's what I believe Jesse was saying with you can just hit the Windows key and then just type CMD, and that gives you the command prompt. But it's looking like you can enable the everything search by installing a little script here.
Yeah. So this looks kind of like a power user type thing, not just for your normal everyday humans.
Okay.
So yeah, you install the application or whatever, run it, and then it looks like it allows you to actually search by case, which I guess means uppercase and lowercase, path.
Wow.
So maybe you could search for like the C drive and go into folders or whatever. And then also using regular expressions, which are super complicated. Have you ever heard of regular expressions?
I've heard of expressions.
Or regex?
But
Okay. So regular expressions, it's a way. Man, how would I describe it?
Here's an article from relatively.com/9. Oh, that's the wrong screen. There we go. That was a close call. I bet I shared something though. Searching with regular expressions, regex, and then it looks like it's a lot of confusing numbers.
Yeah, it's a really complex usage of like slashes and quotations and like brackets and squiggly brackets, all this stuff that allows you to search for specific sequences of characters. So you could do like slash ABC or something, and it would search for 3 characters that are in that group of ABC. So it might find like cab, CAB, or BAC, or whatever. And that wouldn't be an actual sequence that you would use.
Right.
I get the syntax wrong there, but it's searches for certain characters or certain types of characters in a certain sequence.
That's pretty useful. And
it's
for some people,
but it's really complex. It's not just your simple everyday human usage. It's like really power uses.
So it's not a life hacker, it's a nerd hacker.
It's a nerd hacker
article, yeah, right.
But it's like that's kind of the big advantage of using this. And then maybe you can also have some kind of custom commands or custom rules that can allow you to find certain apps faster, which that might actually be useful to regular humans. But personally, I find that the Windows search bar works good enough for me. But I will say, if I'm looking to find a specific image file or something, yeah, I struggle with that. So, you definitely can't use the Windows search bar to find your photo of anything, really. You have to actually dig through folders, and I'm horrible at it.
The 14 different sound control panels.
Yeah. Yeah. And that brings us to... Where does that bring us?
The most interesting topic of the night, by far. Yes. I'm seeing how much I can actually share. So, I gotta look up when I actually bought them. So, I bought some Raspberry Pis at pretty much when we started streaming a year and a half ago.
Yes.
And, let's see, Pi.
So, if you've been watching us for a while, you may remember, like, seriously, it was...
March 22nd, 2019. So, that was...
Almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, and
almost
so we started streaming on April 1st because we had such a sense of humor or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're coming on 2 years that I've had this Pi sitting on my desk. It's actually sitting right here now. Look at that, plugged in and running.
Wow.
I know, it's a weird sign, right? Something's wrong over here.
Probably like the first time it's ever been running.
Right. For this... Actually, no, sadly. A lot of failed attempts.
Second time?
Yeah.
Really?
But it actually didn't start with this Pi. So I bought this Pi, and then it sat there for a year and a half up until Christmas. Mm-hmm. And then I did an Internet Secret Santa. I can't recommend it because you could not receive a gift, but I did, which is great. I also gave a gift. It turned out I got about how much I monetarily gave, so like worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it worked out perfect, it sounds like.
Yeah. And they were like, so I'm not much of a computer person myself, so I asked one of my friends, and he said computer guys always love to have extra Pis. And so they sent me a Raspberry Pi 4B. It was a $50 Pi.
Okay.
And so one of the things I always wanted to do was a Pi hole, and that blocks like all the ads that come in through your internet service. Okay. And so when you pay for internet, you pay AT&T, Spectrum, whoever, and they send it through a line, goes into the house. It goes into a modem, and the modem, I tell people, it translates it from the long distance language to the short distance language. It's kind of what it does.
Good enough, yeah.
It's not a far off, but like, that's very oversimplifying that.
It's like, yeah. But I mean, yeah, it works for the purpose.
Yep. And then, so your signal goes from the modem next to the router. And the router does literally routing. It tells all the traffic where to go within your network.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have a router, Wi-Fi access point, and switch combo. All a switch does is it just gives you a bunch of ports. You can make managed switches. No home has those. They're all just dumb switches. And then Wi-Fi access, everyone knows what that is by now.
Yeah.
Is it a 6 or a 6E or is it 6 gigahertz? We'll never know.
Wi-Fi.
Right? And so a pie hole is a DNS cache. Oh, this is going to get really complicated for people who don't know about computers very well. And so if you type in facebook.com, it doesn't actually go to facebook.com. It goes to the DNS server, which is domain name service or something.
Yeah.
I think so. Memories, right? And it takes facebook.com and it converts it to an IP address. And then that's how you can talk to a server. You don't actually talk to facebook.com. You talk to, 111.111.111.111 or something of that nature.
Yeah.
The pie hole becomes a DNS middleman. That's that word again.
Okay.
And so all the router, instead of sending it to a real DNS service like Google or not Backblaze, or basically Google, if
Okay.
it sends it to the pie that's in your network.
Interesting.
And the pie will look at enough of your data, DNS queries, I guess, and then it will send it off and send it back. So the pie sits as a middleman and actually looks at the traffic.
Okay.
And so I thought there was going to be a latency problem because I have AT&T fiber. I'm trying to type in.
Speeds it up, actually.
I've noticed 0 delays, and I haven't really noticed it being faster, but it's also like really fast, and my computer's 11 years old, so like, it's pretty hard to tell.
Even if you lost like 2 percentage points in speed, it would be unnoticeable.
Yeah, so I haven't noticed any type of increase, decrease. Some websites I have just disabled all my ad blocking stuff just to see like if it's actually taking care of me.
Gotcha.
And it is. Oh, that's fun. I have to open this up on my Chrome because my password's saved on it.
For a little bit, I was wondering how this would work if you were viewing a site with HTTPS, like the secure, because then no one should be able to read your traffic. But then I started thinking about how websites actually work. So when you go to facebook.com or whatever, and you load that page, it loads the very first page that you're going to view from Facebook's servers, and then it makes more requests for the resources that are in that first document. So
yes,
it's not like the ads are included in that first document and then the Raspberry Pi filters them out, but you get that first document from facebook.com, and then that Facebook document has other resources. So it might have like googleads.com/whatever ad, or adclicker.com/whatever ad, or whatever sites are serving these ads. And then your computer takes those resources and says to the internet, hey, I need these again. I need this resource from googleads.com/whatever ad. And that is actually a separate request from that original Facebook request. It's a separate request. And that's where the Raspberry Pi hops in and says,
yes,
let me replace this request. So instead of giving your browser giving you the ad back, it gives you back I don't know what it is, but a blank image or
blank space. Yeah, it's pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish I could just replace it with my company logo or something and sell these suckers, right? My company logo just all the way down web pages. So I'm using 1.1.1.1, which I guess I could look that up while you were talking.
I think that might be Google.
That is not Google. Google's 4444 and 4488.
Gotcha.
1111 is Cloudflare.
Okay.
And they're supposed to be one of the faster ones.
Gotcha.
I've always used them in my other house. I used to use Google, and then Google started getting creepier and creepier and not evil. So I actually have this to share. So this is the Pi-hole running. Oh, look at that. It shares the actual Brave browser and not the window for Brave. So, fun fact, that's the case we 3D printed for it.
Oh,
So
really?
we
Oh, nice.
3D printed it, and we use a new wood filament. It's 20%
Okay.
real wood grain. It feels like cardboard. Like, it doesn't
Okay.
feel like plastic at all. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to come and like touch the pie one day.
Yes. Yes.
But it's pretty neat. So we have a little pie sitting on top of the router now. And I'm going to switch this back to the face view. We're going to go to studio mode. We're going to go screen. We're going to switch from Brave browser to this one. Okay. We're going to go off studio mode. Back to screen. There we go. So this is what I see in the pie. You can't see it right now because it's so tiny. But so it tells you a bunch of fun stuff. So like the active temperature of it is 59.4 Celsius. Yay. It's using 4.4% of its memory. One of the creepy things that we didn't like about the Pi-hole is it would show you all the computers connected to it, all the DNS query searches, and which shows you all the websites that computer goes to, and it logs it. And we did not have enough trust within the family to have a log of all of our computer searches forever. So
that's one point where using a VPN would make a lot of sense.
Correct.
Because using the VPN would prevent, the router actually knowing what domains you're going to, but at the same time,
Still
it might actually
ads.
prevent the Raspberry Pi from blocking ads.
We can find out.
Yeah.
Not live, but I can find out.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
I need to interrupt.
Oh, you're good. So it's only been plugged up for a couple hours because we put it in the case and then actually plugged it into the router instead of in a switch that's plugged into a switch that's plugged into a switch that's plugged into the router. And so like since this afternoon, we've done almost 10,000 search results. So you can actually see it bumping up between my 37 tabs open that are just doing continuous searching. It's blocked 2,000. That's 21.9% of this stuff.
Let me note that these searches, they're actually probably requests. It's not like you went into Google and searched 1,000 times.
There's no way.
Like I was saying earlier, you go to Facebook.com.
And it will request like 60
the
times.
Facebook message, and then it says, hey, I need this image, I need this image, I need this image, I need this image, I need this ad, I need this link. And it also grabs all those. So even that one search actually makes like 10 or probably closer to like 30 or 40 requests.
Yeah. And so a little bit of a silly me thing is that I just put both of the DNS as the same 1111. A lot of people do two different DNS ones. That way, if one doesn't return results, it will search on the second one. Mm-hmm. I do the same one because I've never been like, I'm going to go to facebook.com and facebook.com not load. Right. So they're just the same. And so it shows that all the queries that happen, it's about 75% of them or so is actually goes to Cloudflare and they actually answer. Okay. And then this little part here, this blue section, is the cache. And so that's whatever it already knew. And that's 8.7%. And the giant red one is the blocked amount. And so it's really interesting to see that, like, this is blocking a lot more than I thought it would. Like, that's 20% of all the requests, basically, being blocked out. This other one is by types. It's all pretty much IPv4 because that's what we use here.
Yeah, in the Earth.
Right.
That's what everybody uses so far.
Yeah,
eventually it will have to change. It will. But...
Yeah, it will eventually, but not today.
Not yet.
Yeah, but we thought it was super weird that it had a query log. Like, it is useful in some cases, but we didn't want it, so we got rid of it.
Theoretically, I would guess that pie chart on the right would shift from a lot of green to more of the blues as you use it more, right? Yeah, like it'll cache more results probably over up to a certain point, at which case I would assume the caches would probably time out at a, after being stored for like so long. But
2 days, 3 days.
Yeah, I have no idea how long that stuff's cached for, but
I honestly don't either. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But right now, these have pretty much been the numbers. It's always been around 20 to 25, about 10, and about 75. Okay. That's been like close to the numbers that it's been for the last 2 days. Mm-hmm. And so this got me onto the next fun thing, and we are going to take a quick break to switch this back. Otherwise,
Okay.
I will forget.
First, let me ask another question. Have you looked into any wireless routers that have ad blocking? Because I would assume that if you can connect to a Raspberry Pi and block ads, people could also just, you know,
Block them through the
sell a
router.
router. Yeah.
Right. I have not. I've never even thought of that, to be honest. That's a
Yeah.
genius idea.
It may not have as much customization, but I mean, it would definitely be possible.
It has to be possible, right?
It has to be possible. Yeah.
A router with a Pi hole built into it would even be possible.
Yeah.
I'm.
Or a Pi with a router built into it, maybe.
That's definitely possible. We all done that. But so that's the Pi that's downstairs. That's not even the Pi that I feel really weird picking this thing up.
Okay.
That's not the Pi that I bought 2
Okay.
years ago.
So this Pi hole is the ad blocker, and that's what we've been discussing up until this point.
Yes, and now this is another Pi.
Yeah.
Really confusing. Nephew Tech Pi.
This is the one he just showed,
Yeah.
the one that he just like actually has plugged in and running.
Yeah. This is running Home Assistant, which
Okay.
we've both been pretty vocal about not liking Alexa or Google at this point. I think
This is the thing we were talking about like 2 years ago, was the home automation stuff,
Yes.
not necessarily that blocking.
And
Although we
so
probably had at that point.
right, yeah, no kidding. And so I've been working on it for a couple days now, and it's finally starting to make a little sense. I'm definitely starting to see more and more of the appeal of having Alexa or Google Home. It's definitely
Because
starting.
of the ease of setup and ease of use.
Yes, it.
Okay.
In comparison, this is like supposed to be robust. I don't like that word, but it's supposed to be very customizable. But
Yeah.
it's so customizable to the point that you have a computer guy now on day 2 or 3 that's still not even close. We're not even
Yeah.
close to getting it.
Okay.
If I had to guess, I would say we're like 15% of the way there. I think I got a lot of the back end worked out.
What does most of the issue stem from? Is it like setting up the network and making sure that you're able to view the like web site from a mobile device, or is it configuring it to work with like your smart home plugs and smart home sockets and stuff, or is
So
it actually the configuration settings themselves?
the installation and setup, I think, would have been a lot harder if I didn't just go through my entire router setting up a Pi hole. So I already had
Okay.
a lot of this information like on the top of my mind. Like no one knows
Gotcha.
what their router login and password is. I do right now because I
Okay.
just did it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And so I actually have the page pulled up so people on YouTube can actually read it. Sorry.
Mhm.
But it's Home Assistant, home-assistant.io/getting started. But they walk you through really well on like, you need one of these Raspberry Pis. You need this micro SD card with this type of class. And that decides the speed of the SD card.
Mhm.
Make sure you have an adapter. And then they show like, okay, so now you need to download this version of Home Assistant for Raspberry Pi and install that onto the SD card with this installation software. And then they walk
Okay,
you
so
through.
it has its own operating system too. It's not
Yeah.
like running on a Raspberry Pi operating system.
Yeah.
Home automation actually has their own OS.
So the first 3 steps on this, on the actual installation part, once you get past the requirements, put the SD card in your card reader. Open the Etcher software, select Home Assistant image, and flash it to the SD card. Step 3, unmount the SD card and remove it from your card reader. Like it's detailed. It's very hard to mess this part up.
Okay.
And then like they go in, it's like 4 has like 5 bullet points to it. And it's like format a USB stick to FAT32 with the volume name config. Like it's very hard if you're good at following directions to mess this part up.
Yeah.
And so they walk you all the way through the whole setup process, and then they show you how to plug it in, and then go to this IP address is like or this website, which is Home Assistant :8123, and your router should find it on your network. Otherwise, you've already assigned it an IP address, which I did.
Okay.
And then it just sits you on this little white screen here. It says preparing Home Assistant. This can take up to 20 minutes. Or if you have fiber, it could take about 13 seconds. It was pretty great.
So it's a lot of downloading that it's doing at that time, we're guessing.
Yeah, like it didn't take long at all. Like I didn't finish my drink.
Yeah.
And then once it starts up, it's like create a username, create a password, and then you're signed in. And that's like the entire setup process for installing and like getting onto the device. The mobile app, you just install the mobile app and you type in the IP address, and then you just type in your username and password, and you got the exact same layout as the web browser.
Okay.
The mobile app is so well done, in my opinion, so far, with my limited knowledge on it.
So did you not even have to like attach a monitor to the Pi at all either?
So I did, because it's just an HDMI cord. But I didn't have to.
Okay.
Like there was no reason to.
That's nice.
Right? It was really nice. It's like you can. At one point, I did a couple commands because I couldn't follow the directions.
Okay.
But it turns out you don't have to, because I ended up having to wipe it because I kind of broke the SD card and I had to restart. I got a little too technical and over-teched himself.
Let's talk about that.
Right? And so then a lot of it's like they have their own store, and so you just go through and you install like all these add-ons that you want, and then it gets super confusing, like very confusing, because the naming scheme on some of this, I kind of want to pull it up. I really can't pull it up on stream though, because no idea what I'll show.
Yeah.
But the naming scheme on a lot of it, so like they have the front end, which is also called Lovelace, which also has another third name that I can't remember. But like, it's just really poorly organized. I've yet to actually attach any real smart devices. So I have it so I can see the Pi hole, so I can monitor the Pi hole. So it shows like this % of ads are blocked, and this is how many is blocked so far within the last 24 hours. And then I can see the router upload download, so I can see how much internet's going in and out, which is kind of cool. And then I can see my phone battery because I have the app installed. Other than that, I haven't been able to get the the one smart light switch we have installed in this house, or
is that the dining room?
The dining room light, and like it's on
putting that in when we were building drones,
right? And it's on the network because I can turn the dining room light on and off with my phone. So like it is wired up correctly and it does work on the network, but I can't figure out how to do it on Home Assistant. There's a lot of smart lights in the house just through the wall outlet plugs with a little adapter on it. Yeah. And I can't figure out how to do any of that.
Okay. So it's mostly the actually integrating home automation with each individual smart device that's one of the bigger.
And that's one of those things that I think Alexa and Google Home did really well, because I never heard anyone complain like this was really hard to sync together.
Yeah, I guess the advantage of that is you probably buy a specific outlet for the Google device or a specific outlet for Alexa.
Right.
Whereas with the home automation, you have a lot more options.
Yeah.
You can just buy any smart plug from Amazon, and theoretically it works with it, but actually syncing it up and setting it up to work with it is a lot more complicated.
Right.
So it's like a trade-off there, I guess.
But I'm pretty dedicated at this point. We're getting a lot closer. Right.
Yeah. You're like, at this point, I have to finish.
But it's slowly starting to click as like, that's what that does. But the fact that it's so unintuitive.
Yeah.
For my unnatural brain. I don't know. It just seems like that somebody could have come up with something better that's on like the open source side. Because usually open source is like a pretty good option for most things, computer wise.
Yeah.
Not this. We are an hour and 10 minutes in.
Just like that.
And we didn't really skip anything besides the Wi-Fi router because that doesn't even sound interesting. We're done.
Oh, that, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess we'll talk about things.
See you next week.
We're going to talk about all the things.
Both things.
Well, we'll have 4 things, I think. Not jinx.
Both.
Both, yeah. All right. Goodbye.
Bye.